Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Everybody's doing well, inshallah ta'ala. Welcome back to another episode or another installment of HadithDisciple Live Q&A. Let's try our best to answer some questions that you guys may have. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. First question is from OR Springfield, Virginia. Assalamu alaikum mufti. Is permissible to get a prenuptial marriage agreement? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. In general, yes. You can agree on something before the marriage, and you are required to fulfill that agreement. You're required to keep your word, to keep your promise. Whatever other type of pact you made with someone before marriage, in general. However, there are certain agreements, prenuptial or whatever you wish to call them, or what they're called, which may not necessarily be permissible to make, and they may not necessarily be permissible or obligatory to keep. Now, we have to understand something that Allah tells us in the Quran, speaking about divorce, not marriage, but divorce and separation, and the reality of reconciling. وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ. Allah says reconciliation is best. It's best. Allah tells us in another ayah, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ, that the believers are nothing more than brethren. فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. So make peace, reconcile between the factions of the believers. So the concept of making peace and making things become smooth, making things, as we say, make the deal go through, that's not prohibited in Islam. That's fine. But the nature of the reconciliation, the nature of a person saying, I'll relinquish some of my rights, the nature of a person saying, I want you to do this and agree to this, so on and so forth, if that goes against the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, explicitly, direct hadith stating that you can't ask this, you can't say this, you can't perform this act with your wife, or inexplicitly, the general usul and the general qawaid of Islam, of the Quran and Sunnah, that pact, that agreement is not to be made, it is not to be upheld, it is not to be respected, and it cannot be done. And this is the meaning of the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ spoke out to the companions, criticizing them and censuring them. مَا بَالُ رِجَالٍ يَشْتَرِطُونَ شُرُوطًا لَيْسَتْ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Why do men make conditions that are not found in Allah's book, meaning that are against the teachings of Allah's book and the Sunnah? So this hadith, this famous narration, is only a part of a long story, and that is the story of Barira. There was a woman who was going to be emancipated, and some people, they wanted someone else to emancipate her, and they wanted to have the wala, the ascription and the affiliation should be attributed to their tribe, and they would inherit from her. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, no, إِنَّمَا الْوَلَاءُ لِمَنْ أَعْتَقَ, that the wala is only for he who emancipates. Whoever manumisses a slave, then they get the wala. And then he mentioned, why do men make conditions and prerequisites that are against the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So therefore, whatever agreement before the marriage, which is not against the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah, khayran inshallah. As far as the agreements and the conditions that go against the teachings, directly or indirectly, listen carefully, then they are not to be made and they are not to be upheld and respected, because they are batil, as one version of the hadith says, even if it's 100 of those conditions. And Allah surely knows best. Question comes from AS from Houston, Texas. Are stock options halal? It depends on the stock. In general, those different financial dealings are going to involve one type of prohibited or impermissible transactional element on one level or another. And it doesn't just have to be riba. But investing money, buying things, investing into certain stocks is not absolutely haram. My advice is to speak to a financial expert, whether they're Muslim or not, and explain to them that you're willing to pay them and that you want to halalify your business and your investments. We've mentioned in a few videos before, I don't know if you've seen them, we've spoken to people like this. There was one woman, she wasn't a Muslim. she had a client or customer that was a Muslim who knew me. And this brother requested for me to go to Manhattan, go into her office, and to speak with her personally. And without any exaggeration, it was her own personal Q&A session. And she was a non-Muslim. And she says, I've heard about you, your brother Fulan here, he told me about you. And I want to sit down and I want to pick your brain. I want to ask you questions. And that is because she wasn't a Muslim, nor she was inquiring about Islam. But she said, I have Muslim clients. I have Muslim customers who spend a lot of money. They may come to me with $1 million, $500,000, $5 million, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, chunks of money. And they say, hold this money, invest this money for 10 years, and I want to see such and such in 10 years, or 20 years, or 15 years with my children. Stocks, bonds, etc. So she says, I need to know what is and what isn't permissible from your religion, that way I can serve my customers better. Allahu Akbar. Look how beautiful that is. It's a non-Muslim woman. And think how many Muslim financial experts or economics experts, they wouldn't even take that much effort and put that much importance on the necessity of a person doing things the right way and the correct way. So what's important is that you have the general principles, and then you need detailed knowledge of the stock, of the 401k, of the investment, etc. Clear, inshallah ta'ala? And another piece of advice for everyone is that there lies no doubt riba is from the greatest sins in al-Islam. From the greatest sins is a riba. فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. A means of waging war against Allah and His Messenger. The Prophet ﷺ cursed those who eat riba, those who give it. So many texts about the impermissibility of riba. So there's no doubt about that. However, many Muslims, they think or they feel or they say and they believe that riba is the only problem. There are other prohibited acts with regards to buying and selling and investing besides riba. So it's not just riba. There's so many other impermissible elements that you have to be careful of as well. And Allah surely knows best. Indar from Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum. How should a person make up for missed years of paying zakat? This was at a time I was a student in debt but had saving. How can I calculate the amount that I owe? Try your best. Try to determine how much you made, how much you had saved. And before you even go that far, you have to make sure that you were even required to pay zakat. Just because you had money, you had savings, doesn't mean that you were required to pay zakat. How much did you have saved and for how long? So if your savings reached the nisab, وَحَالَ عَلَيْهَا الْحَوْلِ, and you had them for 12 months, you had to pay the zakat, no doubt about that. So calculate it and try your best. Give a little extra. Make tawbah, make istighfar, and give extra sadaqah, and try your best to attempt to estimate it. Wallahu alam. Next question says, NH from Toronto, Canada. Salam Mufti, hope you're well. Is the hadith on people not seeking ruqya being among the 70,000 without accountability authentic? They're authentic bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Those who enter paradise for not seeking the ruqya and not doing the other things. And the subversions are that along with the other thousands, how many other people? Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Inshallah, they're sound. Inshallah. Wallahu alam. Hey, still in the UK, is it permissible to make a scarecrow? If so, how should it be done? Tight. If you don't need a scarecrow, then don't make one. If you can use another way or another means of deterring whatever you need to deter from your crops or your farm, then do that. And there are many different types of technology that we have today. If you have to make a scarecrow, or if it's very effective and it's a hajj, a need towards it, then inshallah ta'ala you don't put an eye on it, nose, mouth, lips. If you have a head, try to make some type of separation between the head and the body. Inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu alam. Similar to a mannequin. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. Mahmoud G from ATL, Georgia. Best book for Aqidah. Of course, the Quran al-Kareem. Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abi Dawood, the Muqaddimah, the introduction of Ibn Majah. That's the best books of Aqidah. Hands down. As far as if you want a specific book on Aqidah, a specific book, then Al-Aqidah al-Wasatiyya is excellent. Wallahu alam. AJ from Columbus, Ohio. There are some hadiths that are racist. Are they authentic? Hadiths that are supposedly racist or contain some type of racist connotation or statement or whatever the case may be, are like any other types of hadiths. Some are authentic and some aren't. Hadiths about iman, about salah, about tafsir, etc. As far as hadiths that are authentic, and it mentions a slave, or an Abyssinian slave. كأن رأسه زبيبة, if his head was like a raisin. Okay, etc, etc. Then first and foremost is you have to understand what is meant by those hadiths and the context of those hadiths. One of the most famous of those hadiths, the Prophet ﷺ says about obeying the ruler. Okay, listening to the ruler, even if he was an Abyssinian slave. One version says, even if his head was like a raisin, etc. This hadith is not a dispraise of black people or Abyssinian people or African people. But the hadith is saying in 1,000 words, obey your ruler, listen to your ruler, even if you dislike how he looks. And even if you look down upon his lineage and his genealogy. And even if you think or feel for one reason or another, right or wrong, that you're superior to him, obey your ruler. That's what's meant by that hadith. The Arabs, and how they look towards anyone besides them, whether they were black or not, anyone besides them, they look towards them a certain way. And that is the concept of a person being tribal, a nationalist, a racist, etc. A person looking at himself being superior. I don't care whether black, white, purple, or green. If they're not me, then they're less than me, and I'm more noble than they are. Okay? So that's first and foremost, you have to understand a piece of history. Arabs, they had nicknames for other people. They called the Romans names. They had tribal issues among other tribes that were Arabs. Their poems, hadiths that were fabricated about blaming and condemning other Arab tribes and clans. Okay? So there's always going to be that hierarchy and that aristocracy among those people who think that they're nobler than the next man, whether they were African or not. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, there's a well-known fact, it's an established fact, is that the relationship between Arabs and between Northeast Africans, the Horn of Africa, Abyssinia, obviously nowadays we have Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, etc. The Horn of Africa, all right, is very close to the Red Sea, the Arab Gulf or the Arabian Gulf, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, Qatar, etc. So people, they traded. They traded spices, weapons, technology, knowledge, and they also traded slaves. This is a well-known and established fact. So many people who were in the Arabian Peninsula that were slaves from being captured or however they were slaves, they came from that part of Africa. So it's well known, that type of slave from that type of lineage. And obviously, first and foremost, the person is not Arab. He's not from Banu Hashim or this tribe or this clan. And on top of that, he's African and he's a slave. So of course, they want to look down upon that person. He's not us. He's not from our clan. He's not from our race. And on top of that, he's not a noble. And there are many nobles from Abyssinia, such as Negus, okay, Najashi. There are verses sent down about him in the Quran. The companions, they made hijab to him. The mushrikun, many of them before they became Muslim, and those who died upon shirk, they went to him and they talked with him and they brought him gifts and they respected his court. So it's not necessarily an issue of black, Arab, black, white, but it's an issue of nobility versus peasantry, let alone a slave, someone of low birth, someone who's been passed on and handed down and captured. It's not the same. So therefore, they're not Arabs, number one, and they're black. And the reality is, and it's not upon us to be, we have to be honest and transparent, is that there are countless lines of poetry in which Arab people considered blackness as a whole and a black person or any color of skin to be a defect and to be ugly and to be looked down upon. That's a fact. That's a fact. No matter how many feathers are ruffled or how many people get their, as they say, quote unquote, excuse my French, my expression, their knickers in a twist, whoever gets mad and upset, it's a fact. You read the Arabic poetry and find many people talking about blackness and how it's an aib. Even in the books of fiqh, you'll find this. Some of the great imams, you'll find them making statements that if a man married a woman and he didn't know what she looked like and she turned out to have dark skin, the marriage contract could be null and void just because he has dark skin. All right? So there are many different statements, and it's well-known, established fact in Arab culture that they look down upon different people, and from the people that they look down upon were Africans, the people who had darker skin than they had. All right? And that's a long discussion with regards to who is an Arab, and with regards to black being a race versus a nationality, and with regards to what do Arabs really look like? What are they supposed to look like? Are Arabs pale and white? Or are Arabs supposed to have dark, rich skin coming from some baked climate? Okay, and the whitewashing of Arab identity in the 19th and 20th century. But that's a long historical discussion. And like we always say, don't take this stuff from me, guys. Wallahi, we're not making nothing up. It's not coming from our top pocket. Read the books, do your research online, and you'll find the facts for yourself. All right? For yourselves. So, a person is not Arab. A person is Arab, but they're not from their clan, they're not from their tribe, or they are from the clans and the tribes, but they're not high-born of nobility, let alone being a slave, let alone being an African. They're not going to want to obey that person, and they're not going to listen to that person. So the Prophet ﷺ said, listen to the leader, obey the leader, respect the leader, even if he's someone that you look down upon. Clear? Inshallah ta'ala. Also, the concept of black people being looked down upon and blackness being something that's ugly and something as a means of being marred, that's only subjective to the Arabs. If the Prophet ﷺ was from a different lineage, then there will be other cultural norms that would be looked down upon. So if you go to African people and you bring someone of a certain color or weight or height or whatever the case may be, it's going to be the opposite as well. It's going to be the opposite as well. All right? So you talk about food. My culture, I don't eat spicy food like that. Food is not supposed to be spicy like that. It's not supposed to burn your mouth. You're supposed to be able to taste the meat, taste the flavor. Salt and pepper is all you need on a steak. Nothing else. A little bit of garlic, a little bit of butter. That's it. That's subjective. To another culture, that's going to be bland. It's tasteless. And the person doesn't know how to cook who just puts cracked pepper and sea salt on the steak. So these things are always subjective. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And that's how they look at beauty. And that's how they look at ugliness. And that's their culture. That's how it was. So you have to understand the context of that. Last but not least is, if there's a hadith that you find just praising blackness or a black slave or this or that, then there are other hadiths that you're going to find talking about black people going to paradise, talking about black people being given privilege, and righteous people, prophets and messengers being black. So it's not just a one-sided coin. Everyone understand this? So there are many isms out there. There's racism, there's tribalism, there's colorism. Among one tribe, among one race, he's darker, he's lighter. This person gets the job, this person doesn't get the job. And even among people of fair skin, whether they come from Europe or other than Europe, there's tribalism and there's nationalism. How do the Irish look at the Scottish? How do the Scottish look at the British? How do the British look at the Scottish? You ever seen the movie Braveheart? You've read any books about that? About tyranny and oppression? And I'm sure some of the people from Scotland, their skin was just as pale as those who came from England. Everyone understand this? The French, the Germans, the Italians, the Spanish. How do the Italians look at Sicilians? How do Sicilians look at Italians? All right? So that's Jahiliyyah. So therefore the Prophet, ﷺ, he is the one who established respect. He's the one who established unity. And he is the one who brought the message of Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The best of you in the sight of Allah, to Allah, are those who have the most piety. And the Prophet ﷺ is the one who brought the concept and the realization of Inna Allah la yanzuru ila suwarikum. Allah doesn't look at your images. Allah does not look at your outward appearances. Walakin, however, yanzuru ila qulubikum wa amalikum. Okay, he looks at your hearts and he looks at your deeds and your actions. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. That's in brief. And this is for any Muslim asking about these things, let alone non-Muslims who try to quote the authentic sources and say that the Prophet was a white Arab who had black and African slaves. He called them names, he gave them derogatory terms, so on and so forth. You have to deal with all of the facts, put all of them on the table, not just one or two facts. All right? However, to keep it real, guys, we got to be real. That's the only thing we can do. Racism, prejudice, discrimination, colorism, tribalism, these things exist among the Muslims. And it's not an accident, and it's not an isolated situation. They have existed for years, and they exist to this day. So let's not be fake about it, right? And last but not least, let's not get upset and mad at someone who's shedding light upon the reality. And if there's someone talking about racism and discrimination and colorism among the Muslims themselves, before they talk about the non-Muslims and the police and brutality, you can't get mad at that person. And if you're not a racist, and if the person who's what he's saying is a lie, it's not true, Muslims don't have no racism, Muslims have no colorism, Muslims have no tribalism, these things don't exist among the Muslims, then why get upset? The only person that's going to get agitated and upset and disturbed is someone who knows that it's the truth, and he wants that truth to be suppressed, and that person, they want that truth, or it hurts them and it bothers them. It pains them. But if you didn't do anything wrong, your masjid has no racism, you're the imam of the masjid, you condemn it, it's a well-known, established fact that no racism is allowed, then why get upset? There's no point or no purpose of you getting mad and upset if you're not guilty of a thing. Everyone understand this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Question comes from NH from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Can you please tell us some books you have memorized, please? I've memorized just but a little. Only a few things, if you only but know. My memory isn't that great. Trust me, it's not that prolific. I had many classmates from different countries that really had hifd, that memorized books, okay? Much better than me, faster than me. They got better grades than me. I've only memorized just a little, so it's no point in me mentioning that. And Allah knows best. Next question says, Aqidah for beginner, Usul al-Thalatha. No doubt about that. And there are other books as well. Sheikh Jamil Zino, rahimahullah, his works on the Islamic Creed, Islam, the Aqidah and Q&A. It's very, very, very good. Dar es-Salaam printed them many years ago. Next question says, it comes from MR, Wiltshire, UK. Are we allowed to criticize rulers of other countries? What about if we speak about them privately, not publicly? We've been explaining that for some time now. And we've said and we've established that the whole entire discussion of these government issues, many of them, if not most of them, will be tainted. They're tainted. And there's outside unorthodox influence on those texts because of the nature of the governments under which we live. The nature of the governments over which we live. So therefore, I think and I feel that we have to make a difference between someone who makes it his daily business to criticize rulers day and night, openly, publicly, versus a person who points out a clear mistake, something that's clearly wrong and clearly evil, and warns from it. There's a difference between the two. And I don't think it's accurate to broad brush everyone. A person who says something about clear munkar, public munkar, changing of laws publicly, outwardly, it's not like someone who says, let's kill him, let's revolt against him, let's this, like this day and night. It's a difference. Someone who has Islamic values versus someone who has secular political values. Everybody understand this? What's important is, read the books of the Salaf, read the seerah of the Salaf if you want orthodoxy. You want to know what they did and what they didn't do? You gotta dig under the surface and go back to the original books. As far as this modern day scholar, this modern day thing, this modern day interpretation is going to be tainted and is going to be influenced by those very same governments. And that's a reality. That's a reality. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Make dua for the Muslim rulers. Pray for them. Ask Allah to guide them. Ask Allah to instill justice. And you yourself try to contribute to that justice. It's a long discussion. There's a great amount of fitna with regards to the rulers and the governments and the position of the Muslim towards them. In the modern world in which we live, what I will say is that we can't play the Islamic card when it's good for us, when it's convenient for us. Okay, it's Quran and Hadith when it comes to you criticizing me as me being your ruler. But where is the Quran and Hadith of me giving you your rights? Me protecting the country, my embezzlement of the country, my millions of dollars in the banks of Switzerland. Where's the Quran and Hadith there? What does the Quran and Hadith say about the kuffar being taken as awliya, friends and protectors and allies? So we can't play the Islamic card when we want to, when it's convenient. And that is exactly what has happened. It's only convenient to quote Quran and Hadith about the rulers when it supports those who are with them and is against those who wish to criticize them. Secondly is the world in which we live. People are calling to all types of things, and things are public and things are open on social media. And we can't become all hush, hush, quiet, quiet, shh, don't say this, don't put this out there, when everything else is out there and in public. That's hypocritical. And Allah knows best. Next question says, Abu Idris from Brooklyn, New York. Should Muslims go out and support the BML protests? We explained that already many times before. Do what you think is aqrabu lit-taqwa, that which is closest to piety. That which is closest to piety. And like we said before, guys, of course, all lives matter. The Quran clearly established, whoever kills the nafs, unjustly, whoever murders someone, فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتْلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا, as if he killed everyone. Murder is a crime. Murder is a sin. The Prophet ﷺ tells about the man who killed 99 men, 100 men. That's a major sin. To kill someone unjustly, to murder is haram. And we're not for that, and we don't support that. Whoever is being killed, black, white, yellow, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Asian, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Malaysian, Filipino, it doesn't matter. Murder is murder, and Muslims are against that. However, I don't think that it's accurate for a person to say, you can't say Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. That's true. But the Malaysian person is not getting shot in the street. This person that was shot in her apartment wasn't from Palestine, wasn't from this country. Every single victim from 2014 till now, the main victims were what? They were black. So how can a person who considers himself to be scholastic say all lives matter? That's not the discussion at hand. It's not the discussion at hand. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If your wife asked you, how's the dinner tonight, honey? How's the chicken? And you say, oh man, I love your lamb dishes. The lamb chops, the lamb shank, the lamb roast. I love it so much. It's so good. It's so tender. She asked you about the chicken in front of you that she cooked. It's a new experiment. Is it salty? Is it soggy? Is it dry? How's the chicken that I made? And he says, all of your lamb dishes are beloved to me, and they're all favored by me. She's not asking about lamb. She's asking about chicken, okay? So the concept of Black Lives Matter versus other lives matter, many people, and I'm saying this without no fear, inshallah, they consider themselves to be scholastic, and they consider themselves to be intellectual, okay? And they say, oh, you can't say that because all lives matter. Did anyone differ on all lives matter? Did anyone have any khilaf on that? No, they didn't. But the police officer, he didn't strangle a white person. He didn't shoot a Chinese person. He didn't kill someone of Japanese ancestry. 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, etc. There's systematic structural racism and discrimination against people in general. And the people who took the greatest brunt of this racism and discrimination were who? By Allah, I ask you, who are they? Black people. And anyone who ain't realizing that, who ain't saying it, ain't keeping it real. You're not being honest. You're being deceitful to your followers and your listeners, and you're not being honest. You're not being honest. So we have to be honest as Muslims, all right? So therefore, if you feel that that cause is worthy of your effort and your energy, that's one thing. If that's what you feel, as long as you're not going against the rules of Islam, of Kitab and Sunnah, then you have to do what you feel. And like I said yesterday, like I said the day before, and years ago, everyone here in the United States, especially people of color, people who have migrated from other countries, they have benefited from the blood, sweat, and tears of those involved in the civil rights movement. Everyone who is a minority, they've benefited from that. There's no question about that. All of these different movements today, the Me Too movement, Weinstein, Epstein, this one, that one, he molested me, he raped me, he did this. All of these people speaking out and raging against the machine, fighting against the dominant powers, they're all fruits and products of the early civil rights movement. So just ask yourself, what are you contributing to it? Okay, how have you thanked the people? If you haven't thanked the people, how have you thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And most important, guys, what will you do and what will you say when that's your son that's in the middle of the street and a police officer has his knee on his neck? What if that's your son or your daughter that shot 17 times dead in the street because he pulled out a phone or a wallet? What will you do when it's your son jogging down the street and some vigilante comes and says he looked like a robber and I shot him with a shotgun? What are you going to do? What are you going to say? All right? So just be mindful of that. That's all I got to say about that. Wallahu alam. Usman Farouk from Punjab, Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh, if there's nobody in the masjid at Jama'ah time, even after waiting, what should I do? Offer the prayer by yourself, bidnillahi ta'ala. Make the adhan, make the iqamah, and you establish the fard yourself. Bidnillahi ta'ala. Ayah, London, UK, what is meant by ayah, fitna, is worse than killing, hayak Allah. Allah hayik. Fitna has different meanings, and there are different usages of the term and of the word fitna. Please go back to playlist of the explanation of Kitab al-Fitan from Sahih al-Bukhari. The explanation of Kitab al-Fitan from Sahih al-Bukhari, and which we quoted what the scholars of Islam say about what the word fitna means. Sometimes the word fitna means kufr. Sometimes it means shirk. Sometimes it means ma'siyah. Sometimes it means destruction of property, burning things. Okay? Sometimes it means imprisonment. Sometimes it means punishment from Allah. The different usages of the term fitna. So to kill somebody is one thing. To hinder someone from their deen, to force them to outwardly apostatize, to renounce their religion, is worse than qatl. Everyone understand this? To destroy and to desanctify and to desecrate Allah's holy sacred things is worse than killing. Everyone understand this? Inshallah ta'ala. There was a lady once, one day, I was YouTube surfing. You gotta keep it real. We always surf on YouTube, well, most of us do. You see a thumbnail, you see a lecture, and you just open it up. So I was surfing, and this lady, she was speaking about hijab. And of course, you know, there's a lot of speech about hijab. Non-Muslims, what they say about hijab, what Muslims are saying about it. There's no such thing as hijab. Hijab is in the heart. Hijab is in the mind. Hijab is of good character. This sister wears hijab, but she doesn't wear deodorant, so she stinks. So therefore, don't wear hijab. Because all hijabi sisters, they smell bad. This sister wears hijab, she's divorced, so therefore don't wear hijab. All of the nonsense that we hear. Hijab is only Arab custom. It's only Arab culture. etc. Men don't have to cover. I can wear skinny jeans. I can wear a muscle shirt. I can wear ripped jeans, ripped cut pockets. I can walk down the street. I can jog in my Speedos, you know, with my shirt off. But my wife, she has to cover in all black from top to toe. So many misconceptions about hijab. And we've done a lecture on this before. So this sister, she was talking about hijab, and she said, it is just as oppressive to force someone to take off their clothes as it is to force someone to wear clothes. It is just as wrong and evil to tell a woman that you have to dress naked. You have to be half naked and let everyone see your chest and your legs and your private area. Wear the tightest, most revealing clothes. You have to dress like that. You have to wear see-through clothes. The man in the supermarket, he has to have the ability to look at your breasts. He has to have the ability to look at your buttocks. He has to have the ability to look at your private area from the front. You have to wear skin-tight shorts and jeans cut and ripped. You have to dress like that. You have to conform. You can't wear no long skirt. You have to wear a short mini skirt. She said that that's just as wrong as those who say that Muslim men force women to cover up. You have to cover up. It's hot outside. You're sweating. Shut up. Be obedient. If not, you're going to go to hell. Wear the hijab. She said that's just as wrong. Think about that statement now. Think about the amount of wisdom included in that statement. Think about that now. How people, they only look at dhulm and they only look at fitna from one direction, from one way of the street. For a man telling a woman, you have no freedom, no rights, you gotta wear this, you gotta dress like this. Versus a man, directly or indirectly, through TV, through media, through rules, saying you have to be naked. And you have to allow yourself to be a part of the industry. All right, so I don't think people are really listening to what they're saying. It's a little off from the question, but it's still pertaining to the question of fitna versus being worse than killing. And that's a fitna. That's a fitna. You're telling a woman how she has to dress. And if she doesn't wear a certain type of clothing that is ultimately revealing, then she's oppressed and she's wronged. Everyone get the point I'm trying to make? And many people who call to a woman taking off her hijab, they don't realize that they're supporting the same people who use women as sex objects to sell things, to promote things. I wouldn't go into this bank, I wouldn't buy this bag of chips or this juice, but as a attractive woman on the cover. So therefore I do. I'll go directly to the store just because the clerk is a woman and she's a pretty woman. You're a part of the chauvinistic movement. So be mindful of that. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. Muhammad Rayhan. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. I'm from India, West Bengal, Kolkata. Is there a consensus amongst Ahlul Sunnah not to protest against a tyrannical Muslim ruler? Jazakallah khairan. I'll say that. This will be my answer. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. There were people who fought wars and they fought over leadership from the time of the Salaf up until later generations. Not one incident, not one happening, not one time, many times from the early Salaf. All right? Now, is there ijma or not? Is there a mas'ala khilafiyya or not? To be honest and not to be deceitful, to give the answer, the amana, regardless of what we think and feel, there are details that scholars and imams have mentioned with regards to naz'ul imam, removing an imam. He's a fasiq, he's a zalim, he does not establish the hudud of Allah, the rights of Allah. There are tafasil, you'll find this in kutub al-fiqh. There's no doubt about that. And the kutub sharh al-hadith, you'll find the kalam of the ulama mentioning certain details with regards to removing an imam, azlul imam, so on and so forth. Clear. Now the concept of obeying the ruler, listening to the ruler, that's clearly mentioned in the Quran and in the Sunnah. There's no question about that. Even if a person is a wrongdoer. But what type of wrongdoer? A Muslim wrongdoer versus a non-Muslim wrongdoer. An Islamic ruler versus someone who's a secular ruler. Someone who's legitimate versus someone who is illegitimate. So these are all matters of discussion. These are all matters of discussion. And not that I really care, but I already know what people are going to say. Look at this misguided individual. He's on the internet calling people to revolt against the Muslim rulers. Imam Ahmed says this, Ibn Bahari says that. And of course we did not say that. And we did not promote that. And we did not call to that. Wallahu ta'ala alam. But there are details regarding that issue. There are. Wallahu alam. Allah from London, UK. Assalamu alaikum mufti. It's okay to memorize surahs using transliteration if one cannot read Arabic fluently. Alaikum salam to Allah. There's nothing wrong with that, inshallah ta'ala. Try your best to learn Arabic, even if it takes you a year or 2 years. That's a life accomplishment. Try your best, inshallah. 6 months, a year, you can do it. Bidnillahi ta'ala. Wallahu alam. Even if you read the transliteration, make sure that you recite it better, properly. Wallahu alam. Next question says, EA from Valenciennes, France. Assalamu alaikum. Here in France, masjid reopened but gather both Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha. What's the ruling on this? Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I don't think that should be done. If the virus is so dangerous and so deadly, then pray in your homes. Pray in your house. Coming to the masjid and combining the prayers every single day because of the fear of the virus, if it's something that's that dangerous, then just pray at home. Jumu'ah is a different story. Pray at home. But, however, somebody may have the ijtihad. They may say, it's akhaf al-dararain. We're still praying in the masjid, so on and so forth, combine the prayers. But what are the prayers combined for? This is a serious question now. When you reach the masjid and it's raining, to keep the people from having to come back to the masjid in the rain, they combine the prayer. Someone has a need or something that's going to pop up, versus every day we keep combining the salah. We require people to leave their homes and to be at risk of being exposed to this dangerous, deadly pandemic. Why don't we tell them to stay at home? Everyone understand this? And we explained this in the early days of the pandemic. Wallahu alam. Tayyib, AH or AS from London, UK. If you make the takbir in salah until you're already in the next position, is your salah invalid or should you do sujood sahu? I don't understand the question too much. If you make the takbir in salah until you're already in the next position, the takbir doesn't have to be done simultaneously with the position. You can do it simultaneously, you can do it slightly before the position, or you can do it right after you move from that position. Inshallah ta'ala, hopefully that's what you're talking about. As far as if a person moved 100% and then they didn't make the takbir and it's totally late, then why? Out of forgetfulness, or you intentionally didn't do it? Everybody understand this? If it's something that's wajib in the prayer, something that's obligatory in the prayer, and you do it forgetfully, then you make the sujood as-sahw after you say it and after you do it, after you patch the prayer up. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Wallahu alam. NR from Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum. After the mentions are over, should we make up the prayers that could be combined, etc.? Purity at Isha time, but praying Maghrib and Isha. In reality, Maghrib came in and went out, and you were not a pure woman. So you're not required to pray, whether you were prohibited from praying. Now, of course, Isha and Maghrib can be combined. That's Tarafay al-Nahar, two halves of the day and of the night, Asr, Maghrib, Asr, Dhuhr, and Maghrib and Isha. But in actuality, you couldn't pray at Maghrib time. Maghrib came in and it went out. So under normal circumstances, you would not make Salat al-Maghrib. So why are you required to make a prayer that you were prohibited from making in its proper time? So some scholars, they say, is that if the half of the day or the half of the night you become pure therein, you have to make up the other prayer. Is there direct proof for that? Is there dalil for that directly? And is that putting upon Allah's servant something that Allah did not put upon them? And Allah knows best. Tayyib. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sakura. Hans Peter OA from Dortmund, Germany. What is the biggest mufassir of our time? I don't know. I haven't read all of the modern books of tafsir, so I can't give you the answer to that question, unfortunately. A.S. London, Assalamu alaikum. How do you deal with doubts regarding the haqq? Not really based on anything, but more like what ifs. Doubts are of different types and of different levels. And oftentimes people don't have doubts. They just have questions. Many people, they confuse doubts with questions, especially those who suffer from waswasa. They say, I have a doubt about Islam. That's not a doubt. It's not a doubt. It's just a waswasa. Or it's a fiqh issue that you want clarity on. It's not an actual doubt. As far as what ifs, then obviously the Quran and Sunnah clearly mention if you hadn't, if not, low la, in, it's mentioned all the time. So the prohibition of saying low, the prohibition of saying if only, is clearly in a context. If I did such and such and such and such, in the past it's done, it's qadr, a person is not patient, a person is displeased with the qadr, that's prohibited. Versus a person saying of a sin or a mistake, or a person using a hypothetical tense. Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah is from the best of the people who I've seen explain this issue in Fath al-Bari with regards to Bab Low in Imam al-Bukhari's book, saying low, if. And he quotes countless proofs and evidences regarding the permissibility of saying if and what if in certain instances. Not like some ignorant people think and feel that it is totally prohibited. Wallahu alam. Next question says, F.A. from East Flanders, Belgium. What are the minimum conditions for Jumu'ah becoming obligatory upon an able man? Does closeness of the masjid play a role? Closeness of the masjid does play a role. It's in a distance in which the Jama'ah is obligatory upon you. You're healthy, you're not traveling, you're not sick, and you are a free man. Then you must go and establish the Jumu'ah. Another condition, Allah knows best, perhaps in our times, is that no one else is establishing Jumu'ah. And the masjids are void and abandoned. You have a responsibility of establishing the truth in your locale. Wallahu alam. R.A. from Richmond, California. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Akhi, I manage 13 Jack in the Box restaurants. They do well baking. What's the ruling on one managing them? I love you for the sake of Allah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahabbakallah alladhi ahbabtani lahu. Ameen. May Allah allow you and me to be in paradise together. Ameen. Selling swine and the flesh of swine and the fat of swine is unlawful. It's prohibited. Any income that comes from that swine is khabith, it's filthy, it's suht. Can't be done. If the majority of your income is halal and there's certain haram elements in it, try your best to get out of it, to get rid of it, to free yourself from it. Try your best to seek Allah's forgiveness and to give extra charity. Wallahu alam. Question is BC, Chicago, Illinois. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How should someone advise and encourage a Muslim who's struggling with a drug addiction? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Many Muslims suffer from drug addiction and from drug abuse. It's a reality and it's unfortunate. Advise them with general things and advise them with specific things. As far as the general things, then there's a return to Allah. It's to realize that Allah's mercy is bigger and greater than anything. Allah can and will forgive you for any crime or sin. And Allah can change any situation when He wants to, with someone who has an honest and sincere heart. All right? And the specifics of the evil of drugs, the reality of drugs, drug addiction, drug abuse, what it does to a person, what it does to an individual, how drugs destroy a person's life, destroy a person's mind, and how there were many people who have overcome drug addiction and drug abuse that were on drugs longer than you, maybe worse drugs. So it is possible and it can be done. And if you don't make a positive step and a change towards the future with an investment of a year, then you'll live the rest of your life upon those drugs. It may take you a year, it may take 2 years. It may hurt, it may cause pain, it may cause anxiety. You may not get your job back, you may not get your family back. But it's better. 1 hour spent in enlightenment is better than a year of heedlessness and negligence. That's what I would say. And to get professional help for drug abuse and for substance abuse. Professional help, professional Islamic help, and professional clinical help bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And Allah surely knows best. Next question comes from Ilyas A. from Amsterdam, Netherlands. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Is it allowed to close the masjid when more than 30 people want to pray? Because that is the limit here now in the Netherlands. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's allowed or not. A wise man, he once said, The boss is not always right, but he's always the boss. Think about that now. The boss is not always right, but he's always the boss. If the government says that it's prohibited from having more than 30 people, that's the bottom line, whether it's lawful or not. And if you break those rules and you violate that rule, there are going to be consequences. So it's not always about permissible or what you want, it's about the rules. Living in that country, the masjids are only open and they're allowed to function through the legality of the rules and of the government. And the moment they shut it down, they shut it down. So be mindful of that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, taking precautions against the coronavirus, taking precautions against infection, that's not against Islam. That's not against the Sunnah. The Quran teaches us about precaution. The Quran teaches us about protecting ourselves and not to destroy ourselves. وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Do not ruin yourselves. Even though many of the Salaf, they said that that verse is pertaining to stinginess. Do not ruin yourself through your own hands. It's talking about not giving in Allah's cause. And others, they said, is despairing from Allah's mercy. Despairing from Allah's mercy and avoiding al-istighfar. But it is included in that of throw yourself into ruin, even though there are times in which we have to be brave and courageous. So therefore, with that being said, taking precautions is not necessarily against Islam. You're living in a non-Islamic country. It's not but so much that you can do. Okay? What's the lesser of the two harms? The masjid being open with 30 people, or the masjid being shut down and locked up? The imam being locked up, the administration being locked up, and there being more pressure and more outside influence on the masjid from the non-Muslim authorities. You have to use hikmah in this situation, and Allah knows best. Question says, AS from London, UK, if you see a fairly big black spider in a dream with white stripes on the top of the abdomen, what can this mean? Well, we've mentioned before what some scholars say regarding Surah Al-Ankabut and the symbolicism of a spider and a spider's web and what spiders represent in a dream. Some scholars, they say that a spider represents death. And some say that a spider represents murder, bloodshed. And some say that spiders represent a family being broken up and destroyed. Please go back to the 5 minutes of faith that we have done called Webs of Death, in which it talks about spider cannibalism, whether it's black widow or other than a black widow, how certain spiders eat each other. A female spider will mate with the male spider, then eat it later on. The babies will be born and raised by the mother spider, and then they'll eat the mother alive. And the secrets behind Allah mentioning that the similarity of those who take gods and partners besides Allah is like those who take a house of spider webs. And the weakest of these houses is a spider web if they only but knew. If they only but knew. So therefore, some of these things are symbolic with regards to spiders. The nature of the dream and the nature of the life that which you live, these things must be taken into consideration for an accurate dream interpretation. And Allah surely knows best. Tayyib. Question says, Mufid R from Bandung, Indonesia. And we'll try our best to summarize the answers and get more questions. There's a lot of questions. We'll try our best to summarize the answers, inshallah. Are there any other books that emphasize as beginning class Aqidah book as much as Siyaq Tamimi or Sheikh Tamimi's book? Barakallahu fikum. You mean Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab? Sheikh Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab's books are unique, the way and the style in which he wrote them. And I would say, from my limited knowledge, many books before Ibn Abdul Wahhab very different than his book and how he wrote his book. I don't know of any other books that are similar to the specific style of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. Wallahu a'lam. Khabib the Eagle, Salam Mufti from Somalia. Please, Akhi Kareem, Jazakallah khairan, mention where you're coming from in Somalia. Mogadishu, Hargeisa. Please mention what region you're coming from. Inshallah, Jazakallah khairan. Ahmed Farah, Columbus. I'm supposing Ohio. Saddam Sheikh, when will you be resuming your classes? Inshallah, looking forward to benefit from them once again. Bidnillahi ta'ala, alaikum salam to Allah. Soon enough, inshallah. AC, UK. Where from the UK, please? Jazakallahu khairan. Where in the UK? Jazakallahu khairan. AS from Lahore, Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you condemn taqleed? If yes, taking answers of questions without dalil from a mufti is taqleed. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Jazakallahu khairan. We've mentioned the issue of taqleed in many classes and lectures. Inshallah, you can go back to them with regards to what is our position concerning taqleed. Thank you very much. Next question says, SH, where you coming from, please? ST, Metz, France. What is the difference between Athari and Ash'ari? I heard Ash'arism is more philosophically coherent. In brief, we've explained this countless times. In the different types and levels of Ash'ari, etc. The correct Islamic creed, the orthodox creed of Islam, is the Aqidah of the Athar. And there is a difference between the two schools, a fundamental difference. Not like how some people say, some branches, some subsidiary issues. That is a lie. That's a bold-faced lie. There are fundamental core issues between the two schools. And the best proof for that is history. Wallahu alam. Tayyib. Ibrahim from Medina, may Allah bless you. I love you for the sake of Allah. How can one go over his sins after repentance and continue his or her life formally without waswasa? May Allah bless you. Move forward. Don't look towards the past. Khalas, you've made tawbah, you've repented, move forward. Thinking about the past, not reflecting, but just being stuck in the past is going to be destructive. Make tawbah, make istighfar, and keep moving forward. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Muhammad Noor Al-Safadi, Syria. Why is Ummah going through so many hardships? Jazakallahu khairan. Please mention where you're coming from in Syria. Jazakallahu khairan. Aleppo, Hama, Damascus. Jazakallahu khairan. SHM, Luton, UK. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Can a wife pray next to her husband if they are the only ones praying in Salah? Jazakallahu khairan. Alaikum salam to Allah. A wife should stand behind the husband, even in the home, even if there's no non-mahrams around. Allahu alam. EA from Valenciennes, France. What advice can you give someone who feels lonely because he doesn't have Muslim parents, beard don't grow much, and no kameez, and people base friendship on outer appearances? A good friend and a true friend is from Allah. It's a gift. It doesn't matter what you dress like. You can have fake friends around you and you have the biggest, longest beard and the longest kameez and the biggest turban. Good friendship, true friendship is only from Allah. Secondly is, if people aren't treating you a certain way because of your appearance, then investigate that. What's wrong with your appearance? Are they doubtful about you? Are they scared of you? And if it's something that needs to be adjusted or fixed, then you should adjust and fix it. Bidnillahi ta'ala. What's important is wear a qameez and wear a thobe because you believe it's the correct thing to do. Inshallah, not for no one or anyone else. Or no one else. Wallahu alam. DM, Birmingham, UK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Does a person who's deliberately missed fast from previous Ramadan have to make them up? You should do that. The scholars, they differ on that. Some people say that you cannot make it up because you intentionally, deliberately missed them, and others say that you should make them up. That's the safest thing to do, and Allah knows best. Tayyip, your initials, please, from Burlington, New Jersey. Don't forget, guys, initials or your name, state and city, province, etc. Owen from Ottawa, Ontario. Sister Act. Your initials, please. Inmate from Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. What is your opinion on learning an Qura for a sister? We always encourage women to seek knowledge. An Qura or other than Qura. Wallahu a'lam. ST, Metz, France. Forgot to mention there's a difference of opinion if Uzair is a prophet or not. Is he, in your opinion? Allah knows best. Allahu a'lam. ML Fulani, Assalamu alaikum Mufti from Reading, UK. Just wondering, are we allowed to vote for a woman leader as the Gambia is trying to appoint a woman to be president? Jazakallahu khairan, may Allah bless you. Like we said before, the issue of voting is fairly a new issue, a modern day issue. And it goes back to the ijtihad of the scholar. If you say that voting is haram, it's impermissible, which you could say that. I myself in my library, I have books of scholars who wrote books on the impermissibility of voting. And they have the proof, they have the evidence. But if you condemn it and say that's haram, you're also forced to condemn the other types of impermissible government. Taghut is taghut, all around the board. So if there's a taghut monarch, it's no different than a taghut republic or taghut democratic republic. So one of the problems with the scholarship today is that the people, they pick and they choose what they want to speak out against. And it goes back to what I previously mentioned of influence from those governments. And that's the truth. It's not slandering no one. It's the haqq. You can't just condemn the taghut because of voting taghut, but you support the monarch taghut. It's not going to, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah's not going to ask you, which taghut did you support or denounce? Period. Hukm al-Jahiliyyah. Secondly is, the Muslims in the Gambia and other parts of the world, what's the lesser of the two harms? What influence do the Muslims have in their country? Are the Muslims going to have a better position to practice Islam, to open masjids, to open centers, to travel, to seek knowledge, if they vote for a person, or they allow this evil person who's totally evil, the other person may be evil too, but this one is totally evil, totally corrupt, to take position? And like I said, we can't boo-hoo and whine and complain if we do not contribute to the solution. So if there's a woman in the Gambia or other parts of the world, she's running for office, and she's better than her other opponents, and you're going to vote for them, or they're going to be the leaders, that's what I would say. And with this, this issue, I would say that the voting issue is similar to the protesting issue. It's similar to the protesting issue with regards to what the people have the ability to do and what they don't have the ability to do. A voice, standing up, trying to make things better than what they are, instead of just condemning it and saying everything's cursed, everything's doomed and damned. We'll stay in our homes, and that's it. Wallahu a'lam. Tayyib, khair inshallah. We're going to stop here, guys, today. Please forgive me. Bidnillahi ta'ala. There are a lot of other questions. Time is limited. My energy is limited. We try our best to summarize the answers. I would like to give you guys much more. Wallahi, I would like to serve you guys better. I would. Wallahi, Allah knows. I would love to. So, inshallah ta'ala, hopefully later tonight or tomorrow, we'll have another session. Don't forget, guys, with regards to our announcements concerning our upcoming workshop on Thursday, the last Thursday of this month, June 25th, 2020, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Bidnillahi ta'ala, to approximately 10:30 or 11 p.m. Eastern Time, on the rules of inheritance according to Quran and Sunnah, Quran and Hadith. Please join us, and thank you very much for your support. Whatever that support may be, jazakumullah khairan. You can go to our websites, HadithDiscipleshop.com, HadithDisciple.com, HadithDisciple official Facebook, Instagram, etc., and find the updates there and the links there. And those who ask about our different publications, our books that are available, 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, Volume 2, the second print of 40 Hadith on Seeking Knowledge, Volume 1, which needed to be re-edited. There were some mistakes and flaws. Mufti Q&A, Attributes of the Righteous Wife, other books, other publications and translations you can find in Bidnillahi ta'ala online, and also our other affiliates and associates in Canada, the Muslims Collection. You can find our gear, our merchandise, and our books and publications there for those who wish to contribute, those who wish to support the cause, and those who want to get some of the books that we mentioned. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. May each and every one of you have a blessed afternoon or a blessed evening, a blessed morning, whatever time zone you're in. Be safe, stay safe. Inshallah ta'ala wa jazakumullahu khairan.